are interested in Latin. But in any case, yes, I suffered through 2 years of Latin in high school, 2 years of French, and then French in college. And I had one German course in college and realized German is English with a German accent. Why study? Why on earth study it? Of course, I spent 3 years in Berlin. By the way, I'll show you where I worked. This is funny. Perhaps it's funny. Be careful, though. This could also be. So you get the idea. I could sometimes ask people, what does that look like to you? But don't answer that. Just see what Americans will build to insult people. Because this was at the highest point in Berlin. We could see Poland from my house. Nobody laughs at that anymore. Remember Sarah Palin? Oh, okay, so forget it. But you could see Berlin. You could see Poland from there. And obviously they could see that on a bright morning. And so, if you think what that could mean metaphorically. So I worked there for 3 years. And while I was there, I learned enough German that I passed my German test. And I think German is just the easiest language for English speakers to learn. Because it really does seem like you just have to speak English with a German accent and you come pretty darn close. Don't laugh at me, but for the last couple of years I've been reading Harry Potter in German, French, and Russian. Not because I'm a fan of Harry Potter. I am, but not really. It's just that I know the story, so if I'm reading it in these other languages, it helps me remember the vocabulary, etc. Although it is confusing when you read in French, Snape is rogue. They change names, they change food. So Russian students at Hogwarts don't eat the same things that the British students eat. By the way, I'm not sure that American students eat the same thing. I think they might, they changed the title from the Philosopher's Stone to the Sorcerer's Stone because the publishers thought no American would buy it if it had philosophy in the title. Just hilarious. So. By the way, quiz questions, I don't really count the words, I just look for your responses. At the end of the semester, I take all of your quiz responses and I put them on a flash drive and then I weigh them and see how much you've sent me. But of course, I'm trying to encourage you to enjoy the subject the same way I do. Have fun. This should be the funnest course you've ever had and will have.
Well, I know ology is pretty fun.
It's not the only text you'll enjoy, I'm pretty
It
sure.
won't be.
Yeah. Okay. So these are old, and I can't update them anymore. Notice this was from spring 2020. But you'll notice that I have been using these links in order to talk about things, and I haven't changed them. So that's fine. My email is here. Current schedule's way wrong. That phone number is still good for my office phone, but they took my office phone away. So there's nothing in my office that rings when you call that. So when you do call that number, it automatically goes to an answering system where you can leave a message, and then it sends me an email with the voicemail attachment. Go figure, right? And I do have office hours. They're after this class. I'll spend about an hour upstairs our philosophy department is just right upstairs. It's a very nice area. We have windows looking out over the mountains. We have coffee and tea vessels there. Basically, you can boil wood, basically. But it's a nice lounge area. We have Wi-Fi, so if you need a place where you could go and spend time in between classes, that's a nice area. Plus, we have a lending library upstairs in the back corner with a various assortment of books that people have accumulated. Nothing really specific, but you can always borrow them if you're interested. If you find something you're interested in. Honor system, bring them back, when you're finished 20 years from now, or whenever. That could have been funny too, but. How are you guys doing? Am I driving you crazy already, or are you okay?
We're alright.
You're all right?
Mm-hmm.
Even with the hat? Yes? I love the hat, by the way. I think it's great. I mean, I don't want it, but I mean, I have my own weird hats. I have a sorting hat, from the Harry Potter thing. Oh well. Okay. So let me go on then. So you can call that, you're welcome to call my home phone, which is there. And I actually answer that. I mean, that's like, fine. Okay. Email is probably best, and that's my correct email address. So let's go and look at my notes that are still notes that I use. What is philosophy? We've kind of been talking about that. If you go to the link, I don't think it works anymore. It used to be William James. Yep, it's gone.
Yeah, I tried that. It didn't work.
Yeah. I used to have it linked to a William James essay on what is philosophy. And that was a great essay. It's actually still on the web somewhere, but I have to reconnect the link and re-edit it, and I can't do that. So you can look it up. But doing philosophy, the love of wisdom, literally, philosophia. Philia is, if you're familiar with C.S. Lewis and the Four Loves, philia is love that he explains as friendship. And he explains that as two individuals who walk along appreciating the same things. That's philia, right? So in a sense, it's we're all walking along and enjoying learning, enjoying knowledge. Aristotle says all men love to know. I think he's wrong. I've met some people that I'm convinced would not actually fit that category. But basically, remember our definition of who we are, what we are, is Homo sapiens, which means man the knower, right? And in fact, we, for some reason, even refer to ourselves as Homo sapiens sapien, which is man the knower. I don't know why that is. But so, love of wisdom. So, not necessarily knowledge. Sophia can be interpreted as knowledge. Episteme is also Greek for knowledge, and math is also knowledge in Greek. But Sophia is sort of the goddess of knowledge, of wisdom. And so Philia Sophia, we love wisdom, right? Wanting to know things. So how do we do it? Well, in our tradition, we have a tradition. It's referred to often as the Western tradition, but that's come under criticism lately. I guess you've probably heard. And so the question is, well, what is the Western tradition? And it's actually not really all Western. When we start off with the Greeks, the West hasn't been invented yet. In fact, I don't think of the West per se, philosophically, as being invented until the moderns, which would be Descartes and Hobbes and folks like that. If we're studying Roman philosophers or medieval philosophers, I don't think they really thought of themselves at all as in the West. But you often hear folks referring to it as the tradition. So it's considered the Western tradition because our Western tradition studies those philosophers, whether or not they're part of a West per se or not. they're the ones that the tradition thinks are important. So we go back to Socrates. We'll even look at pre-Socratics, the individuals that are before Socrates. We call them pre-Socratics because they're before Socrates. Pretty easy. So learning the tradition by studying kind of the history, the way we're going to do, if you follow along with me here. And it also leads you to a quest, because if you think of this as kind of progress, and early philosophers, when you think, gosh, what were they dealing with? Well, look at this movie. It's my favorite example of what we originally seemed to have in mind, and that's now. I don't know. Do I need to give you a trigger warning? Some of you are underage. I don't know. There's some violence in this movie. So, I don't know, maybe you need to avert your eyes.
We're launching an exciting new podcast, Steam, where courage is contagious.
Sorry about the commercials.
Stop, Dan Strong.
Get fast relief of your worst allergy symptoms, including nasal congestion.
Another day, walking in circles, haunted by memories. I push up this wheel. I pray to climb, grant me revenge, help me to answer the riddle of steel. A shy little boy wouldn't protect them, helpless and timid, as weak as a girl. Who should my people? The dogs ate my father, my mother beheaded, they took my whole world. Clown, where is the wizard who killed my mother? Still, I can recall his terrible gaze. Clown, where are the two snakes facing each other? Clown, if you're my god, then show me the way. I'm on the path, chopping up bodies, cutting and slicing, and look at me now. Loyal friends joining my party. Each step I take, I'm fulfilling my vow. Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of the women.
That's the chorus, by the way.
Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of the women. Hear the lamentation of the women. Clown, show me the wizard who killed my mother. True, I've never played to you before. Still, what would I give if you could help me see this through? And if you do not listen, then the hell with you. Clown, where are the two snakes facing each other? Clown, if you're my god, then show me the way. I swear this wizard will fall. Justice has begun, they murdered them all. I'm the last one, I issued the call. Revenge for my mom, I pray for you. Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of the women.
It's funny, yes? If you've seen the actual movie, that should be hilarious. By the way, it wasn't really Arnold singing. It's an imitator. He does Rocky, he does a couple other silly things of that sort. But the point I'm trying to make is, what is good? remember the original movie, they're all sitting around the campfire, and that chorus, you know, kill your enemies, see them running before you, and hear the lamentation of the women. Yes, that is good. That's the ethic of this barbarian that we see. By the way, I would argue that in many places in the world it is still that way. And if we look at the ancient Greek resources, so Aristotle thought that these Greeks were ancient Homer. So if you read the Homeric epics, like the Iliad, you might have seen the movie Troy, terrible version of it. But if you look at the Iliad, it starts off, with rage. Achilles basically means no honor. Achilles has been dissed by Agamemnon, which, by the way, I break down to King No Balls. Terrible, king, and all sorts. Big joke, actually. Can't even count his own men, as a king, and so on. And weak, physically, in a sense. Achilles is really the hero. Without Achilles fighting, the Greeks aren't winning, right? And what does he do? The Greeks have won the day at one point, and they've brought home prizes, and they all have, at least the leaders all have a prize, and Achilles has a prize, and Agamemnon has a prize, but the priest from the Trojans comes marching over, and he's furious because the prize that Agamemnon has taken is the daughter of the priest. And the priest comes in and says, the gods are mad at you, for taking my daughter. You must give her back. And Agamemnon believes it, and so releases her. And then he's all upset because now he doesn't have a prize. That's not right. Agamemnon is the king. He ought to have a prize. Well, Menelaus, his brother, says, well, you're the king. You can take any prize you like. So what does he do? He goes to Achilles' tent and he takes his prize. Well, Achilles feels absolutely furious because he's been insulted by the king. He's had his prize taken away from him. So he says, I'm not going to fight anymore. I'm just going to sit here and let you guys lose. And in fact, that's what starts to happen. The Greeks start to lose. So finally, Agamemnon has to come back, give Achilles his prize back. And Achilles still doesn't want to go fight. And so Achilles' cousin, who is Cleopatra in reverse, so Patroclus, right? Patroclus means the country's honor. He goes in and he tells Achilles a story about Cleopatra, which is interesting because that's his name in reverse, who, and it's not the Cleopatra that's famous, by the way, but it's just the honor of the country. And he tries to convince Achilles to get back into the fight. Doesn't work. So he says, can I borrow your armor? So, okay, you can borrow the armor. So he puts on Achilles' armor. By the way, Achilles is huge. It's one of the reasons the movie Troy was terrible, because who was it that played Achilles? Brad Pitt. Much too small. It should have been a giant of a guy. But instead, I remember the one scene where he has to leap up and stab the giant. I think that's Achilles would have been probably bigger than the giant. I don't know. But in any case, Patroclus puts on the armor and clunks out. And as soon as the Trojans see the armor, they think, "Oh crap, Achilles is back!" And so they all start to flee. But then they see him move